I stayed quiet. That's the part I regret most. My name is Samuel Griffin. I'm 32, and I work as a project manager at Pulse Technologies, a startup in downtown Seattle. We describe ourselves as a young, energetic team building the future of cloud collaboration tools. That's what the website claims anyway. In reality, we're about 100 people in hoodies, drinking kombucha, pushing through 80-hour weeks, and convincing ourselves we're changing the world. And on a Tuesday morning in September, we hired a 52-year-old intern. His name was Douglas Mercer, and we treated him poorly. Have you ever watched someone get mistreated and said nothing? Share your experience in the comments. And if you want more stories about workplace lessons, accountability, and the impact of silence, subscribe and turn on notifications. Douglas arrived on his first day, wearing khakis and a button-down shirt. Everyone else wore jeans and company hoodies. He carried a worn leather messenger bag, something my grandfather might have used. He was bald with a gray beard and reading glasses on a chain. He looked like anyone's dad, maybe a teacher, someone who should be thinking about retirement rather than starting an internship. Our CEO, Jenna Park, 29, Stanford MBA, raised $40 million in Series B, greeted him in the lobby. Douglas, welcome to Pulse. We're excited to have you. She was trying, I'll admit that, trying to sound genuinely enthusiastic about our new age diversity initiative. 6 months earlier, TechCrunch published a piece about us. Pulse Technologies, Innovation or Age Bias. Wider oldest employee just turned 35. It went viral. Bad optics, difficult conversations. So we hired Douglas, a 52-year-old marketing intern, reporting to Amanda, our 26-year-old marketing director. I watched him follow Jenna through the office, past the ping pong table, hold brew tap, nap pods. He looked around with calm curiosity, not intimidated or impressed, just taking things in. This will be your desk, Jenna said, pointing near the supply closet. It was the worst desk we had, the one nobody wanted, because of the loud printer beside it. Perfect, thank you, Douglas replied. His voice was steady, thoughtful. He set down his bag, adjusted the chair, and pulled out a paper notebook and pen. Across the room, Kyle, one of our developers, snorted. Is he actually using a notebook? Trevor, another dev, whispered loud enough for half the room to hear. Maybe he doesn't know how computers work. Douglas didn't react. He wrote something down, looked around, and gave a small nod. I felt uneasy. That was the first moment I sensed something was wrong, and I still said nothing. The first week wasn't openly hostile, nothing that HR could formally point to, but the condescension was constant, small, steady, dismissive. Douglas, do you know how to use Slack? Amanda asked him slowly and loudly. I do, thank you. Okay, great. Let me know if you need help. It can be confusing. She was 26. He was 52. Yet she spoke to him like a child. At lunch, Douglas sat alone. He brought food from home, a sandwich, an apple, leftovers in Tupperware. Everyone else ordered delivery and worked through lunch. Look at Grandpa, Kyle said openly. Taking a real lunch break. Must be nice to be retired. He's not retired, I murmured. He works here. Barely, Trevor replied, laughing. Douglas heard them. I could tell he did, but he kept eating, quietly reading something on his phone. I didn't defend him. I wanted to. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I told myself it wasn't serious, just humor, but I knew it wasn't. By week 3, Kay created a Slack channel called Dot. Old Doug doesn't get it. I wasn't added to it, but I saw screenshots people shared around, memes about Douglas, jokes about age, photos of confused old men. Douglas's big startup idea, the wheel. About 50 people were in that channel, bonding by mocking him. I didn't join, but I didn't report it either. Amanda was in the channel, laughing with the others. Douglas never mentioned the teasing. He arrived early every day, worked quietly, took notes, asked thoughtful questions. In one marketing meeting, he asked, "Why do we target only the 18-25 group? Don't older users have more disposable income?" Amanda laughed. "Douglas, older people don't use apps like this." "Why not?" "They just don't. They're not digital natives." "I see," he said and wrote something down. Later, A competitor launched a product aimed at users over 40, and it performed extremely well. No one acknowledged Douglas's question. I began noticing little things. Douglas always arrived before most people. He complained about the bad desk. His old slow laptop didn't stop him. He organized the supply closet without being asked. Labeled, sorted, efficient. "Thanks for babysitting the supplies, Doug," Kyle said once. Patronizing. "You're welcome," Douglas replied, polite and calm. During a company all-hands meeting, Douglas asked a detailed question about our financial projections, something about burn rate and runway. Jenna stumbled through her answer. "We're in good shape, Douglas. Don't worry about it." "I'm not worried," he said. "I'm asking about the math." "We have it handled," she responded quickly before moving on. But Douglas's question was sharp. The kind an investor would ask. The kind that could reveal if things were unstable. I wondered if we were in trouble. Douglas seemed to suspect something. 3 months later, everything shifted. We lost a major client, an $800,000 annual contract to a competitor. Jenna called an emergency meeting. We crowded into the conference room. "We need ideas," she said, trying and failing to sound calm. "How do we win them back? How do we keep this from happening again?" People threw out rushed, unfocused ideas. Douglas raised his hand. Jenna called on him in the patient voice you use with a child. "I reviewed the client communication logs," he said, "with Amanda's permission. The client raised concerns about feature X 3 times over 6 months. We acknowledged them, but never addressed the issue. Our competitor resolved it. That's why they left." Silence. "We did address it," Amanda insisted. "We said we would," Douglas replied. "But we didn't. I have the logs if you'd like to review them." More silence. Jenna cleared her throat. "Okay, thank you, Douglas. We'll look into that." After the meeting, Kyle muttered, "Great, now Grandpa's teaching us client management." "He's not wrong," someone whispered. Kyle snapped, "Whose side are you on?" I walked away, feeling that uncomfortable knot tighten again. 4 months. We hit a technical crisis. A server architecture issue caused constant site crashes. The dev team scrambled for solutions. Nothing worked. From his desk, Douglas said softly, "Have you considered load balancing with?" and mentioned a specific method. Kyle cut him off. "Douglas, no offense, but this is advanced infrastructure. It's not like organizing supplies." "I understand. I just thought. We've got it. Thanks." 3 days later, they implemented almost exactly what Douglas suggested, and it worked. No one thanked him. 6 months passed. 6 months of watching Douglas be underestimated, dismissed, and treated like an inconvenience. And 6 months of me saying nothing. Then everything changed. It was a Friday during team happy hour. The beer fridge was open. People were relaxed. Douglas stayed at his desk, still working. He never attended happy hour. He was rarely invited, or only invited in ways that made it clear he wasn't expected to join. Kyle was drunk, loud, and "You know what I don't get?" he shouted. "Why is Doug even here? Seriously, what's the point?" Some people laughed with discomfort. "He's learning," someone offered weakly. "Learning what? How to be slow? How to not understand technology?" A few people laughed again, a little less nervous now. "He's like a diversity hire, but for old people," Kyle continued. "It's charity." Douglas went still, not hurt, more like he had expected it. And something in me finally snapped. Maybe it was the built-up guilt. Maybe it was the way Douglas sat there, quiet and resigned. Maybe I was simply tired of being silent. "Kyle." My voice was louder than I expected, sharp, firm. The room fell quiet. "What?" Kyle asked, genuinely confused. We'd always been friendly. I had never challenged him. "You need to stop, right now." "Dude, it's not just anything," I said. "You've treated Douglas terribly for 6 months. We all have. And he doesn't deserve it." "I'm not mistreating him," him a charity case. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. I looked around at everyone. We all participated in this. We decided he didn't fit in because he was older, because he didn't match the company's image, because mocking him was easier than respecting him. Sam, seriously, he shows up early, stays late, completes every assignment without complaining. He asks thoughtful questions that we ignore. He gives solid advice that we reject. And yet we act like he should be grateful just to be here. I glanced at Douglas. He was watching me, his expression unreadable. You were right, I told him. About the client concerns, the load balancing issue, the demographic targeting. You've been right many times, and we've been too dismissive to listen. Douglas stood, walked over, and I expected gratitude or a handshake. Instead, he looked at me with something close to disappointment. You're right, Samuel, he said quietly, but it shouldn't have taken 6 months. He picked up his bag and, Monday morning, his desk was empty. He quit, Amanda said, looking uneasy. Sent an email over the weekend, said his internship was finished. Did he explain? Jenna asked. Just said he'd learned what he needed. Kyle wouldn't look at me. The whole office felt uncomfortable, guilty, but also relieved, as if the issue had solved itself. On Tuesday, Jenna called an emergency all-hands meeting. We have a situation, she said, pale. I just received a call from Gregory Sullivan. Gregory Sullivan, one of Seattle's top venture capitalists. We'd been trying to meet with him for years. He wants to discuss possible investment, Jenna continued, but he specifically asked about Douglas Mercer. He said, and I'm quoting here, I heard Douglas was working with you. How was that? Did you learn from him? Everyone looked confused. Why would Gregory Sullivan care about our intern? Amanda asked. Jenna shared her screen. A Forbes article appeared. Douglas Mercer sells AI startup to me. $2.1 billion. The room froze. The photo showed a younger but clearly identical Douglas shaking hands with Microsoft's CEO. That's not him, Amanda whispered, though it obviously was. Jenna scrolled through more articles. Tech billionaire Douglas Mercer retires at 48. Mercer's philanthropy. What's next? Where is Douglas Mercer now? Kyle went pale. He's worth roughly $2.3 billion, Jenna said, voice shaking. MIT, PhD in computer science. Developed machine learning algorithms still used today. Serves on multiple Fortune 500 boards. She looked around the room. And we had him organizing office supplies. The news spread instantly. Slack blew up. People deleted messages from the old Doug doesn't get it channel. Too late. Screenshots had circulated. By Wednesday, TechCrunch published, billionaire Douglas Mercer goes undercover as intern, startup clueless. The article included anonymous comments, examples of mockery, and references to the Slack channel. We sounded awful, Beck. Thursday, Douglas agreed to a phone call with Jenna. Leadership sat in the room. The call was on speaker. Douglas, Jenna said, voice trembling. I don't know what to say. We didn't know who you were. If we had known, you would have treated me differently, Douglas said gently. That's exactly the problem. I don't understand, Jenna said. Why did you do this? I wanted to understand something, he replied. I've been in tech for 3 decades. I started young, worked with young teams, valued speed and disruption. But I'm not young anymore, and I began wondering what happens to people like me. Are we still valued? Do we still belong? Of course you're valued. Am I? Honestly? If a 52-year-old applied here as an engineer or manager, would you hire them? Silence. That's what I thought, Douglas said. You hired me as an intern because of negative press, to check a box. You didn't expect me to offer meaningful input. That's not fair, Amanda said. You were an intern. We gave you intern tasks. You gave me those tasks because you saw an older man you assumed couldn't keep up. But the questions I raised, the recommendations I made, they weren't entry-level. And you know that. They were dismissed because of who said them, not because they lacked merit. No one disagreed. He was right. He had been right from the beginning. The client issue, the server fix, the marketing suggestion. You know all of that, he said, but ignoring me was easier than admitting an older intern might understand something you didn't. More silence. You want to know the saddest part? Douglas continued softly. I enjoyed the work. I liked being there. I liked seeing how startups function now. I met smart people. But I was never viewed as one of you. I was just the older guy. Douglas, I said, my voice rough. I'm sorry. I saw what happened. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't speak up. You did speak up, Samuel, Douglas said. Eventually. That matters. Not enough. But more than the others. Kyle stared at the floor. I need you all to understand something, Douglas said. This isn't about me. I'm fine. I don't need validation. But the next 50-year-old who applies to work in tech will need fairness. And based on what I experienced, they won't get it. We'll change, Jenna said. We'll improve. Will you? Douglas asked. Or will you simply avoid mocking the wrong person next time? Will you actually value experience? Or just hide the bias better? No one answered. I hope you change, he said. Tech needs people of all ages. You're losing talent and pushing it away. Is there anything we can do? Jenna asked. For me? No. But for your culture, that's your responsibility. He hung up. On Friday, Jenna called another all-hands meeting. I've done a lot of thinking, she said, looking exhausted. About Douglas. About what this says about our company. She displayed the old Doug doesn't get it Slack channel on the projector. People shat uncomfortably. This is who we were. This is how we treated someone who showed up in good faith. Someone who worked hard and treated us with respect when we offered none. She scrolled through the jokes and memes. Some of you think, if we'd known he was a billionaire, we would have acted differently. That's exactly the issue. His value shouldn't depend on wealth. His ideas shouldn't be ignored because of age. His contributions shouldn't need a Forbes headline to matter. She then detailed real policy changes, mandatory bias training, clear age discrimination rules, diverse interview panels, hiring initiatives for candidates over 40. And Kyle, Trevor, and Amanda, you're receiving formal reprimands. This behavior is unacceptable here. Kyle flushed deeply. If you can't treat coworkers with basic respect, regardless of age, background, or status, you don't belong at Pulse. The story stayed in the media for weeks. Douglas gave one interview to NPR. The host asked, "Did you do it? What were you trying to prove?" "I wasn't trying to prove anything," Douglas said. "I wanted to understand the industry, honestly. How it treats people who don't match the young hoodie-wearing startup image." "And what did you learn?" "That ageism in tech is widespread, casual, often unnoticed. People think it's just company culture." "Do you think it will change?" "I hope so. But change requires action, hiring older workers, valuing experience, and creating environments where all ages feel welcome." What would you say to the people at Pulse who mocked you? They're not bad people. They're shaped by a system that equates youth with innovation and assumes older workers can't keep up. Those ideas are harmful, but they can be changed. I listened to that interview alone in my apartment, and I cried. I told myself it wasn't my problem, that it wasn't serious, that I wasn't actively participating, so I wasn't responsible. But silence is participation. Choosing not to act is still a choice. And for 6 months, I chose wrong. 3 months later, I received an email from Douglas. Subject, coffee. We met at a cafe in Capitol Hill. He wore jeans and a sweater, relaxed. Not like a billionaire, just Douglas. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, still feeling guilty. "Of course, I wanted to check in, see how things are going at Pulse." "Different. Better, I think. We've hired 3 people over 45 in the last 2 months. Jenna's serious about the changes." "That's good, but I still feel terrible about what I didn't do, what I didn't say." "You spoke up eventually." Not enough, not soon enough, Douglas said quietly. But Samuel, can I tell you why I really wanted to meet? Okay. Because you're the one I'm most hopeful about. I looked up, confused. Kyle, Trevor, Amanda, they learned lessons about consequences, about getting caught. They changed because they were scared. But you changed because you understood. You grasped the silence. And that is far more valuable. I don't feel valuable. I feel like a coward. You were for a while, but you stopped being one. That's growth. He paused, sipping coffee. Most people never reach that moment, where they realize inaction has hurt someone. They assume that if they're not actively cruel, they're good people. But you know better now. Witnessing cruelty and staying silent makes you complicit. So what do I do with that? I asked. You never stay silent again, he said. Not when someone is dismissed, underestimated, treated as less than. Speak up immediately, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. I nodded. I will. I promise. Good, he said, smiling. Then what happened at Pulse won't have been for nothing. We talked for another hour about tech, ageism, and his experiences going undercover at other companies. Pulse wasn't the first. As we left, I asked, one more thing, that question you asked Jenna about financial project. Burn rate. Were we in trouble? Douglas smiled. What do you think? You'd be right, I said. 6 months of runway at the burn rate you maintained, maybe less. Did you tell anyone? I tried in the meeting. Jenna dismissed it, so I sent a detailed memo with projections and recommendations. And? Amanda threw it away. Didn't even read it. I saw her do it. Jesus. It's okay. You corrected course eventually, but you were close to a cliff. We shook hands. He turned to leave. Douglas. Yes. Thank you for the lesson, for giving us a chance to be better. Samuel, I didn't give you anything. The opportunity to be better was always there. You just had to take it. 2 years later, Pulse is different. We have 42 employees over 40, including a 61-year-old CTO, age diversity training, mentorship pairing younger and older employees, and zero tolerance for age-related jokes or dismissiveness. Our retention is higher, our product stronger, and our culture healthier. But, telling this to celebrate Pulse. Last week, we hired a 22-year-old intern, eager and slightly naive. In his first meeting, he suggested an idea that wasn't fully formed. A confident 28-year-old developer began dismissing him. I saw the eye roll, the condescending smile, the start of mockery, and I stopped it. Wait, I said. Let him finish. The developer looked annoyed. He's a colleague with ideas. Let him finish. The intern completed his thought. It wasn't perfect, but it held a perspective we hadn't considered. That's interesting, I said. Can you develop that more? I'd like to hear where you go with it. The intern's face lit up. After the meeting, the developer approached me. Why'd you do that? His idea was half-baked. Maybe, but he's learning. He'll learn better if we listen. Treat contributions as valuable, even when imperfect. He's 22. Age doesn't determine worth. Contribution does, effort does, humanity does. The developer nodded. You're right, sorry. Don't apologize to me. Encourage him. Help him develop the idea. That's how we all improve. I never forgot Douglas's lesson. Silence is complicity. Inaction is a choice. Every person, regardless of age, experience, or status, deserves to be seen, heard, and respected, not for what they're worth, but because they're human. Which moment hit you hardest? Samuel finally speaking up after 6 months. Douglas revealing why he did it, or Samuel learning to intervene immediately. Share your thoughts, stories of staying silent or speaking up, and workplace lessons in the comments below. If this story of ageism, redemption, and the cost of silence moved you, please like and subscribe for more stories on workplace lessons, dignity, and moments that change who we are. Click the notification bell so you never miss our next story. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.